Hey, this month I wanted to review Abigail Shrier's book, Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. Now, before we get to the review, let me just give you a couple preliminary thoughts. The first is this. I found this book difficult to read. Not because Abigail Shrier is a bad writer. Matter of fact, quite the opposite. She's very good, very engaging. It's difficult to read. I found it difficult to read anyway, because it's hard to accept that what she describes is actually happening. Now, I don't deny it. I'm just telling you that it's hard to accept that it's real. Now, the second thought I have as we get into this is that it's important to keep in mind that the book is very narrowly focused on the transgender craze that's seducing our daughters, specifically adolescent girls ages 12 to 14. Her point in this book is not to pick a fight with transgenderism, nor to cast any judgment on gender dysphoria. It's specifically aimed, as the title suggests, the craze that's affecting so many adolescent girls. So let me sort of set the table for you with this review by reading these couple paragraphs from the introduction. She writes this: gender dysphoria, formerly known as gender identity disorder, is characterized by severe and persistent discomfort in one's biological sex. It typically begins in early childhood, ages 2 to 4, though it may grow more severe in adolescence. But in most cases, nearly 70%, childhood gender dysphoria resolves. Historically, it affected a tiny sliver of the population, roughly 0.01%, and almost exclusively boys. Now get this. Before 2012, in fact, there was no scientific literature on girls ages 11 to 21 ever having developed gender dysphoria at all. In the last decade, that has changed, and dramatically. The Western world has seen a sudden surge of adolescents claiming to have gender dysphoria and self-identifying as transgender. For the first time in medical history, natal girls are not only present among those identifying, they constitute the majority. So what's going on? Why are parents all over the country finding clusters of adolescent girls in a single grade, say, suddenly discovering transgender identities together and begging for hormone and body-altering surgeries? What's up with that? What's going on? Well, Abigail Shrier describes the ingredients of this phenomenon, starting in chapter 1, which is about being an adolescent girl with a cell phone and access to the internet. Ingredient number 2, chapter 2, she describes peer contagion. Chapter 3, high-profile, entertaining, and interesting social media and internet influencers. Ingredient number 4 from chapter 4, woke activist educators. Number 5, parents who are ignorant or oblivious to what's happening, or parents who, at first, take pride in their open-mindedness, but who later regret consequences. That's chapter 5. Then chapter 6, the, quote, transgender affirming care, unquote, of therapists. And then chapter 7, the canceling, dismissing, and vilifying of those who speak reason and truth. Then chapters 8 and 9, this is what is, for me, the most distressing part of the book. Because in those 2 chapters, the author explains and describes the hormone therapies and transitional surgeries that many young girls are experiencing that do irreversible damage. Therapies that interrupt the natural transition of puberty. Therapies and surgeries that cause infertility. Therapies and surgeries that cause emotional and physical pain. And many times, the hormone and drug therapies are begun without the consent or knowledge of parents. All of this in a delusion a delusion that the impossible can become reality. And that is that a female body can be changed into a male body. It can't be. It is physically and biologically impossible. All you can do is destroy and mutilate, not change. Chapter 10 chronicles the regret of hundreds, even thousands, and I think soon to be 10,000s of young women who were caught up in a craze, supported and encouraged by people they didn't know and would never meet, deceived by activists, and betrayed by cowards who refused to act on reason and love. Chapter 7 then is entitled The Way Back. And there, Abigail Shrier gives this advice and warning. Let me start with the warning. She says, quote, "School districts, teachers, and even other parents are now sowing gender confusion. Confronting it requires not psychological expertise, but intellectual ammunition. Opposing a school assembly introducing a transgender adolescent to the student body requires something that is squarely in my métier as a journalist. It requires merely knowing the truth." Then here's the advice. Are you ready? It's pretty straightforward. Number one, don't get your kid a smartphone. 2, don't relinquish your authority as the parent. 3, don't support gender ideology in your child's education. 4, reintroduce privacy into the home. 5, consider big steps to separate your daughter from harm. 6, stop pathologizing girlhood. Which leads to number 7, don't be afraid to admit it's wonderful to be a girl. And I'm sure it is. Final thought since this. Parents who have daughters need to get this book and read it. Parts of it, as I said, are going to be distressing. Parts of it might be difficult for you to believe are happening. But parents who have daughters need to get this book and read it. You need to be informed. You need to be educated. Christian teachers and educators need to get this book and read it. And pastors and those who are involved in discipling youth in any way need to get this book and read it. There's much more in it. I hope that what I've done in this short review will give you a little idea of the book, and I trust, encourage you to get it and to read it. But thanks for just thinking with me here for a few moments as we've thought about this important book, Irreversible Damage by Abigail Shrier.